Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Streamlining Digital Identities and Account Access. Allow me to welcome Mr. Jake Fowler, Director of Campus Technology at Kansas City Art Institute. Joining him from Quick Launch, we have Chuck Donnelly, Vice President for Sales and Marketing, and S.K. Calkins, Vice President of Engagement and Customer Success. I'd like to pass it over to Chuck for a quick introduction.
Welcome everybody, whether it be morning or afternoon for you all. Thank you for attending this webinar. We're super excited to have Jake as our guest host to talk us through his experience with identity management and his experience with Quick Launch. On the phone, we also have S.K. Calkins. S.K. comes from a higher education background as Director of IT, and she'll also be promoting this webinar. So welcome all, and we can move forward. So there are many definitions of identity access management. Now we just wanted to define it from our perspective. Basically, it's defining roles or identities, whether it be students, faculty, staff, alum, parents. It can even be IT staff or application owners who require privileged access. Now, making sure the appropriate access is granted to the approved users based on job functions, ensuring that they can fulfill their job function as needed. But basically what it boils down to is ensuring the right people have the right access to the right systems at the right time. So there's a lot to be said there. So the right people, whether it be students, faculty, staff, system admin, the right people having the right access to make sure that they do their job, whether it's privileged access or whether it's certain OU or certain AD group, to the right systems to make sure they have access to what they need to get their job done, or from a student perspective to make sure they're fulfilling their student needs. And at the right time. So that's a big one, because sometimes onboarding can be difficult, and we want to relieve that burden. We want people to have access day one from when they need their access, whether it be email, access to Moodle, access to Active Directory, access to Gmail, access to Office 365. So some of the historical challenges that we have with IAM. So I've been in the IAM business for about 20 years, starting long ago with a company called Corian. What we've seen is long implementation times, sometimes 1 to 3 years, based on data, based on functionality, based on workflows. A lot of times there are issues with consolidating data, getting approvals, getting the management hierarchy in place. So lots of challenges, which extends the implementation cycles that are often tied to specific goals that need to be reached, and typically it's a phased approach. What we've also seen is that there's no single vendor that can provide a comprehensive identity access management solution. That's a key point, because you'd rather have one vendor that has single sign-on, password management, provisioning, multi-factor authentication, rather than a single vendor that can handle all that. Not only handle it, but manage it for you in a cloud application, where you have your own system administration rights to modify workflows, modify changes. In the past, there's also been a high level of customizations that have been required, whether it be SQL code, scripts, PowerShell. The level of customizations really is a factor, because it's challenging for upgrades, it's challenging for feature releases, it's challenging for additional functionality to be added to the solution without extensive services contracts with either the implementation vendor or extensive IT resources on the client side. We also see a lot of compliance, auditory, regulatory failure or pressure to make sure we see who has access to what, is it the appropriate access, and is it an approved access? So that's a big factor in making sure that your identity management solution is successful and is required by regulatory, whether it be internal or external audits, to make sure that you are in compliance with access to financial data, to IP data, to a wide variety of specific data that the user needs to have access to. And ultimately, what this requires is high support costs, high maintenance costs, based on if you want to add a workflow or if you want to change an authoritative source. How is that possible without providing the vendor with a statement of work, or with providing the third-party system integrator with an additional statement of work as well? So that's a little bit about the challenges that I've seen, that we've seen at Quick Launch. So just a quickly overview about Quick Launch, who we are, what we do. We have over 875 higher ed customers headquartered in Chicago. As you may be able to tell, I am residing out of Boston, so I'm trying my best to pronounce my R's. You can make fun of me later if you want. But basically what we wanted to do is enable institutions to leverage many business reasons for our solutions. And certainly one is optimize user experience, a new state-of-the-art slick workflow. We have certainly wanted to reduce the burden on help desks. We wanted to add a layer of security or layers of security, increase productivity. Definitely wanted to accelerate or automate the onboarding process. It's critical because we know that there's lots of turnover with students every semester, every year, and make sure that there are some self-service components with millennials this year. They welcome the self-service aspects of any solution. And then certainly predictable budgets where you have a subscription-based cost overview where you can sign up for 3-5 years and we can manage the solution for you. Or if you prefer, you have hands-on capability yourselves, that you are able to make changes yourselves without incurring additional costs. So as far as the sundial goes, we do have automated provisioning. We have access management, which means that you have the multi-factor authentication. You have adaptive authentication as well. We have a password manager tool. It's single sign-on, so it's capable of taking all of your wall of applications and making it simple and easy for students, faculty, staff to access their applications very simply, all leveraging a microservices architecture, which is the state-of-the-art architecture, with boatloads of reporting, boatloads of analytics that we have set up, all based on an AWS infrastructure that we have with a multi-tenant cloud. So it's safe, it's secure, and it's fast to get up and running. Here's just a quick list of our customers. Some of the customers that we have for your benefit. Some of the recent ones include University of Houston Clear Lake, Carroll Arts, Iona, and Howard are a few of the names that we have. Northeast Alabama Community College just signed up with us. So we are happy to say that we're built for higher ed, for higher ed. So we have a lot of feedback from our customer community. We build in specific feature functionality based on our higher ed clients and what they're asking for. And certainly it's a big difference than what we have from a commercial standpoint. So with that, we're going to go to a polling question. So we're going to say, how far are you on your identity access management journey? Are you thinking about it? Are you comparing solutions? Are you implementing a solution? Or are you using a homegrown solution based on scripts and other custom homegrown abilities? So with that, SK, I'll push it over to you.
Okay, thank you so very much, Chuck. Welcome, everyone. So glad to have you all joining us today. Again, how far are you on your identity and access management journey? We'll take a moment or so to have you all please enter in your current status. It looks like most people are in. Okay, great. So from our results, it currently is about 22% of you are thinking about an identity and access management solution. Roughly 20% are comparing solutions at this moment. 29% of you are currently implementing. Congratulations. And 29% of you are currently using a homegrown solution. Thank you for participating in our poll. It is with great pleasure that I would like to pass the presentation over to our guest speaker, Jake Fowler, who will walk us through the KCAI's identity and access management journey. Over to you, Jake.
Thank you, XK. Let me switch my screen here real quick. Okay. Thank you for that introduction. Hi, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Jake Fowler, the Director of Campus Technology at the Kansas City Art Institute. KCAI is a private nonprofit four-year college of art and design founded in 1885. I've been in IT at KCAI for about 14 years. In that time, I've seen many big changes. For example, the transition from a local Exchange server to a cloud-based email service. We use Gmail. Our identity management has not evolved much in that time. We had our account provisioning process is currently very manual. Using spreadsheets and an Active Directory management tool, we bulk import new students every semester, but then have to deal with duplicates and other issues. We provide local AD accounts to all of our users that sync with many different services, Google, Office 365, Adobe, etc. We recently made some policy decisions not to allow alumni to keep their accounts indefinitely, as well as creating a new subdomain for students. So students will get username at students.kcai.edu instead of kci.edu addresses, which should help us quite a bit. We had an older ADFS server with a few single sign-on relationships for vendors that did require that, and a password self-service portal that were not linked in any way. But the self-service portal was seldom used except for the initial account setup. We just didn't have a whole lot of buy-in. We didn't have a way to force people to use it. Slide. I needed to upgrade or replace our aging. It was running on Windows Server 2008. ADFS server. My preference was to find an affordable but functional cloud replacement, and to be able to enhance our ADFS offerings, our single sign-on offerings. Like I said, we only had two relationships in there, and I wanted to there's a whole lot of potential there. We weren't using it to its fullest potential. So I was in the process of exploring some cloud-based options such as Azure. I actually found out Google has kind of an app function as well. And then we came across Quick Launch. While we're still in the middle of our deployment, Quick Launch has already solved several issues for us. It's already replaced our old ADFS server, but it's also given us a much nicer onboarding procedure for new users, access to an app portal, which we never had, and enhanced account security. Onboarding, at least the technical aspects of it, can now be done for most users with a single introductory letter. I'll show you that really quick here. So here's our letter that we send out to people, and we obviously fill in the blanks for the individual user, but it's really pretty straightforward. Most users are able to get what they need there.
Yeah, and if I could, so this letter is completely customizable. You can add whatever graphics you want to it. You can add whatever text you want to it. You can embed URLs to make sure that the login process, basically all we need is either a personal email address or a cell phone or both. And we can send out this for the onboarding purposes.
Switch back here. So Quick Launch provides an app portal with many pre-built applications that make it really easy to add everything that your users at your institutions may need. It's also very easy to add custom applications. We just went live about a month ago, and these were critical phase 1 applications. There's a lot more that I want to add, and I'll show you that here real quick. So here's our portal, and it's much nicer than our old password management portal. It's much nicer looking and much more user friendly. So I'll log in here, and then it'll take me straight to my apps. So these are the applications we have set up so far. Like I said, we have a lot more we want to add. And they're actually relatively easy to add. Even the custom ones are pretty easy to add. Let me switch. Excuse me. The app portal is contextual, meaning that you can control which apps end users have access to based on group membership. There are many pre-built, like I said, there are many pre-built applications in the portal, and it's really easy to get up to speed for launch day and add apps as needed. I think it took us, most of the delays were actually on our end when we were setting ours up. We just had a lot going on. So if we'd actually been able to focus all our energy on it, we would have been up within a few weeks, probably within a month at the most. It took us a few extra weeks just because, again, we had a lot of stuff going on. As I'm sure many of you do with COVID and all that. There are also lots of reporting capabilities in the back end, such as login failures, device types used, application usage, making it really easy to adapt your environment based on the trends that you're seeing in those reports. The password management tool has provided for us additional account security and allows users to regain access to their accounts on their own if and when they forget their passwords. It's already had a positive impact on my help desk staff. There are several options for end users to recover access to their accounts on their own, such as email, SMS, security questions, and Google Authenticator. Quick Launch allows you to configure password policies to match what you already have, or to make security-focused changes to your existing policies for stronger passwords. You can even customize your questions, the recovery questions. As I mentioned, we recently went live with single sign-on. This has solved several problems that we didn't even know we had. We'll soon begin the implementation of the provisioning tool, and I and my staff are very excited to see this go live. So I was going to show you some of our recovery things here that we had implemented. So you can see those are my account. So yeah, we have our security questions there, email recovery, phone recovery, and then I set up Google Authenticator. You can control which ones are required, which ones are optional, which ones are even available to your end users. And there's more options than these. There's the YubiKey is an option if you have users that want to use that. So there's lots of options there. Okay. End users can also log in from anywhere to gain access to their apps and tools, even mobile devices. Adaptive authentication will help to secure their accounts, even if they log in on a new device or from a new location. 2FA will be triggered as soon as one of those things happens. There are many options for 2FA, like I said, such as security questions, biometrics with the latest hardware. Obviously, the latest iPhones or Macs have fingerprint sensors, stuff like that. Push notifications and authenticator apps like Google Authenticator or 1Password. Then we have another poll question, SK.
And I take myself off mute. Thank you very much, Jake. Appreciate your time on showing us your platform. It sounds like the implementation went well and you're excited to add some things to the platform already. Great job. The current poll, how are you currently provisioning your accounts from your SIS to target applications? Again, please add your responses here. A manual account creation, custom scripts, identity management vendor, looking for a new solution to reduce costs with increased functionality. Okay. All right. It appears that overwhelmingly we have at least 57% custom scripts. 6% are manual account creations. About 41% or so of you are currently using an identity management provider, and the rest are looking to a new solution to reduce some costs and increase some functionality. We're all over the place here, so it's great to be able to have Jake identify his highlights as he plans to automate provisioning and deprovisioning at KCAI. On to you, Jake.
Oops, hang on. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, I guess I'll leave it on here. So yeah, as we have not yet actually started the provisioning setup. I can't speak directly to the solution. But I'm really looking forward to creating a streamlined onboarding procedure for our end users. When a new person is hired, when the new students start, we'll create a new account for them in our student information system. We use Genzabar, which will trigger all of the other provisioning tasks, getting the new employees access to what they need much more quickly, or students, obviously. Next slide, yeah. Again, I can't speak directly to the provisioning portion yet, but I'm excited to get it up and running so we can automate account creation and application provisioning. It's going to save my small staff. I have a staff of 4, not including myself. It'll save my small staff time and resources that can be spent on other important projects. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Chuck.
Great, thank you, Jake. That was good. That was a great overview. Appreciate that. So some of the things we've seen in higher education, it was funny. I was talking to another colleague of mine, and he said we do, from implementations perspective, we do implementations for commercial clients, and they're easy compared to higher ed. Largely because you have multi-affiliations where it's a student, it's also a faculty member, it's a staff member, could be an alumni, you have parents, you have emails for life. So that's a challenge, how to manage that, how to make sure everybody has the right access to what they need. We want to eliminate the default or temporary credentials. So as Jake showed in his onboarding email, you have the fact that we can send an email to the student who is going to either apply or has been accepted, and get them their credentials as needed, give them a new email address. So what we do is we send them that email, they click on a URL. Now there's no default, there's no temporary passwords, there's no summer123. They log in based on the URL. We send them a PIN code based on their preference. They authenticate themselves, and then they're able to actually input their password. That will be the password that they will leverage moving forward. So that eliminates, the welcome package with a temporary password, eliminates all that. Certainly, we wanted to add multi-factor authentication. With pandemic times, it's important to make sure that people who are logging in are logging in as themselves and not someone else. We also have analytics built in, so if it doesn't recognize the device, or it looks at if somebody just logged in from Kansas City and then an hour later they're trying to log in from California, we know that that's unwarranted travel, unwarranted login. So we actually notify the user and have them authenticate themselves again. We also have seen multiple usernames, multiple logins, multiple passwords. So leveraging single sign-on is super important based on user experience. Once the user gets provisioned to those accounts, they just have a single login and they get access to that wall of applications that Jake showed earlier. Higher education also has multiple data sources based on students, faculty, alumni. How do you manage multiple data sources, multiple authentication sources to define who the user is, what the profile name is? So Quick Launch can leverage all of that seamlessly, and it's built for higher ed. We see a lot of help desk chaos, whether it be just password management. It could be profile updates. So I imported my challenge response questions, but I forget what my answers were. So can you help me with that? Student onboarding, offboarding we talked about that a little bit earlier. It's all about making sure that hundreds or even thousands of students that need to get onboarded for the semester gets done appropriately and without too much IT management. That's a key factor, and because we know there's so much turnover in attrition rates based on just higher education. And then certainly breaches. We talked to a customer the other day who had actually talked to the FBI and wanted to know more about ransomware and how Quick Launch could address some of the security processes that are required to require the multi-factor authentication. So those are just some of the challenges we see in higher ed. I think Jake has experienced either all or many of these challenges. We know that some of our other clients leverage these as well. And Quick Launch, again, built for higher ed. From higher ed, we have lots of input coming in from our clients, which we welcome, and then we build that in from a feature functionality standpoint. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Campus Consortium generated a what it's called a magic box. This is talked about within the higher ed community, specifically about identity and access management. So it looks at all the vendors that are in the space. It talks about the pros and cons of each. Quick Launch was selected as the leader in identity management for higher ed. So if you want to download this report, you can do so. There'll be a link provided so you can download this. It's a link directly from Campus Consortium, led by Carl Horwath, who is the president, and he has a team of resources that will help you guide you through this document. It's a fairly robust document talking about each of the vendors in the space. But again, Quick Launch is honored to be named the leader in this report. So there'll be a URL that will be assigned to the slide deck. So everybody that attending will be getting the slide deck for your review purposes and able to log into Campus Consortium URL to request the Magic Box report. So with that, I will open it up to questions and answers. I'm sure you have several questions for Jake, so he will be he'll be getting the brunt of the questions, I believe. But SK and I are also here to answer whatever you have. So with that, are there any questions out there?
Hi, this is SK Calkins, again, Vice President of Engagement and Customer Success at Quick Launch. I've recently joined Quick Launch probably in the last year. My background is in higher ed, 16, 17 plus years at Community College of Philadelphia. And I would like to take this opportunity to kind of walk through some of those questions. There's a question indicating one of the stories I hear in these discussions is about student retention. Could you let me know about student onboarding and how that impacts student retention? I can give you my perspective at Community College of Philadelphia as Director of Enterprise Resource Planning Solutions. One of the things as an inner city institution is our students are very mobile. They want things immediately. They want processing to happen immediately. They want to be able to walk in the building. They want to be able to do their placement test, register, get their classes, and get into a classroom. And one of the things that we found utilizing Quick Launch's solutions is the ease and need of provisioning. And what would take us with our FIM process and our manual creation and our manual moving into certain groups, our process could take over 4 hours before someone's provisioned into the systems that they need to be into. With our Quick Launch provisioning, it's real time. We are actually able to complement that student by walking in the door, being ready to take that test, to get registered, and to get into the classroom. It is a true complement to the ability to get that student in the door, and our provisioning solution with Quick Launch was able to heighten the interest at CCP, knowing that they didn't have to stand in long lines, knowing that they didn't have to come back 3 and 4 times just for processing. And I really believe that it truly impacted our ability to retain students and to encourage other students that were either part-time or had multiple jobs or what have you, that they could get into the systems that they needed to immediately and not have to keep coming back for processing. I believe our next question is, does SSO really mean that users have to enter their credentials once? I am happy to answer that one. If anyone else would like to, just jump in. That is correct. Single sign-on for our purposes is logging in once. In each session, you're logging in, there's a wall of icons, you're able to click and gain access into that application that has been integrated into the institution's wall of icons. So indeed, yes, it is a one single login to have access to all of your applications.
And like Jake said, and I'll defer to Jake on this one, but he is starting with a handful of applications in his wall of SSO applications, but it can be easily added to. We have over 500 applications that are in the App Store that can be leveraged and can be incorporated in. So to Jake's point, he went live with single sign-on, password manager, multi-factor authentication as a phase 1, but he's also planning on going into provisioning for phase 2. What I think, and Jake, I'm not speaking for you, but I think what attracted Jake the most was his need for the password management solution, MFA, single sign-on, to get up and running very quickly, which we did. We can get that up and running in just a matter of a week or 2. There's no lengthy implementations based on the product that has been architected for our higher ed community. And that's what was exciting to Jake. And now he's going into his phase 2 for provisioning. So Jake, I don't know if you want to add more color to that.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, ultimately, in the very beginning of this, I just really wanted to upgrade our ADFS server. Like I said, we had a couple of relationships in there with services that required it, but we hadn't utilized it for anything that would have benefited us. So when I started doing the research, figuring out what was out there, I discovered, competitors, obviously Okta. Somebody asked about Okta in the chat somewhere. But a lot of that stuff was just not within reach for us financially or resource-wise. Quick Launch put all that stuff, all that functionality in reach for us, for sure. And yeah, I mean, with our app portal, you saw there's not a lot in there right now. We got the important things that pulled over, the existing things pulled over, and added a few more things to it as we have time. I have a long list of things I want to add in there that will be, like I said, it depends on they're contextual. So faculty need access to certain things, to the LMS, whatever, and students. Staff need access to like our HR management platform. That'll be in there, and they will. But the point is, only the people that need to see what they need to see will see those apps. There will be some stuff that's obviously generic, like Gmail, those things. Everyone will see that, but we can define who can see what apps. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot more I want to add to it. We have there's a lot of different systems that we use that have their own passwords. So yeah, once you log into this app portal, you can click on that and you're done. There's no more logging in.
Thank you, Jake. We do have one question about how do you handle student IDs, Jake?
I'm not sure what the question is exactly. I mean, I need a little more clarification there, but I mean, we assign student IDs within our student information system, Genzabar, and actually students, staff, faculty, everyone's alongside each other in the student information system. So everyone's assigned an ID. That's right now we manually put that into Active Directory. I mean, with the spreadsheet process that we have, but yeah, I mean, all that stuff, once it's entered into Genzabar, our student information system, it'll sync automatically into Active Directory. So along with all the other information. In fact, we just did. Again, we use Google, and we've been struggling with needing a directory of faculty and staff with titles and departments and stuff. So we ended up doing that manually in Active Directory because we're not in the provisioning part of it yet, and that data didn't actually exist anywhere. When we finally get the provisioning implemented, that stuff will be entered in Genzabar when a new person starts. For employees, that stuff, the title, department, ID number, all those things will be entered when the employee starts, and that'll push automatically to AD, which will then go into Google, which is what we use for our directory. So I mean, there's a lot of things that this is going to automate for us.
Thank you, Jake. And I can give you my perspective. Everything that you mentioned is very similar in a banner environment as well. We have many different systems on campus. We use a CRM, we use a portal, we use 2 different LMSs, and with the single sign-on process, the password reset process, it really has streamlined a lot of the student ID concerns. I don't know what my student ID is. How does my student ID get committed to me? How do I understand what's happening? And as you had mentioned earlier with your first time user letter, CCP also does that. And that first time user welcome letter is sent. It's given to that individual's personal email account. They can access the link to do their account profile setup on their mobile phone, their tablet, their computer at home, a computer at the institution. And it really streamlined folks understanding that there is only one student ID, there is only one password, and it is a much more streamlined process for that individual to walk around and understand. I don't have to have 14 different pieces of information on me. I need to know what my student ID is, my user login, my password, and I'm done for the day. I can manage anything I need to manage throughout the day. I hope that helps answer some of that question on how do you handle student IDs.
And I do see that they updated the question a little bit. So they were talking about ID cards, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, right now we use Transact for our ID, for our badging system, and that is that's already linked to Genzabar. So all that stuff gets linked for us right now automatically. So it'll, once the provisioning happens, it'll get linked up even more, I guess. So our security department handles the issuance of the ID cards, which again, their records are automatically synced into Transact.
Okay.
From
Thank
Genzabar.
you so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Another question, what multi-factor authentication options are supported? Email, SMS, push notifications, YubiKey, Google Authenticator. We have the gamut there. Another question is, do you guys have a mobile app? Can we rebrand it to look like our university? Yes and yes. Our mobile app is pretty dynamic. Single sign-on to third-party applications, 2-factor authentication, push notifications of not only expired passwords, but of campus-wide communications, the biometric app lock. It's a handy application to have, and definitely streamlines communication.
There's another question around, basically it's how we differentiate from our competition. So I have been in the space for about 20 years, and I can honestly say that Quick Launch is remarkable. It kind of fraught with differentiation based on complete functionality from an IAM suite perspective, meaning single sign-on, password management, provisioning, multi-factor authentication, but it's in the cloud and it can get up and running for you in a matter of weeks. In one case, we had single sign-on, password management, multi-factor authentication up and running in a matter of 3 days for one of our clients. We just got off the phone with another client in Pennsylvania who has an urgent need to get the same solution kind of up and running based on some issues that they had. And we agreed that we could get it up and running by mid-March. So we can start anywhere. We can start with provisioning. We can start with password management. We can start with single sign-on. Whatever your need is, we can start anywhere, but we can get it implemented extremely quickly and oftentimes at very, very low services cost, or we roll the services cost into the subscription-based pricing that we offer, which is the most aggressive in the market. So we offer the functionality that everybody and the market has, but we also compete very aggressively from a pricing standpoint. And it is, 3-5 year subscription models. So which means that it's predictable costs. So you know what your costs are going to be. You can have your IT staff focus on other IT urgencies, and you can let us run your IAM solution for you. If you want to have your IT staff be involved with some of the changes and activity, it's certainly built for that as well. So you could have full system admin capabilities for your specific instance, which is a multi-tenant instance based on AWS. We give you a test instance and a production instance to make sure that you have all that you need to make sure that your solution changes as your environment or as your needs change, which happens every day, every other day, every week.
I see a question in there about the implementation time frame. And I can speak to the password portal for sure. I mentioned in the presentation, I think it ultimately could have taken us about a month to implement. We just had several delays on our end just because we had a lot going on in my department, and I have a very small staff, but it is a very quick implementation. I've been told for the provisioning part of it, it takes about 4 to 6 months. Again, for us, it'll probably take more like 8 because we're just very busy, but that's on us. But yeah, no, obviously provisioning is going to be a lot more details. There's a lot more things to figure out between working between all the disparate systems. But I'm excited to get that project started.
Thank you, Jake. I can say it's a true compliment to our platform because the implementation can really be based on your timeline preference. Single sign-on, password manager, first-time user, adaptive, mobile app. The typical implementation time frame is approximately 3 to 4 weeks. We've had several schools up and running in 24 hours, and other 6 to 8 weeks, 3 to 4 months, just really depending on the institution's timeline and those competing projects that they have. A typical timeline for provisioning is roughly 3 months. I can say CCP also took I would say up to 5 months for us. We had quite a few folks that had retired. We hadn't gotten all of our documentation put together prior to implementing or starting the implementation. And Quick Launch was able to help us identify the workflows that we're going through, talk us through the scenarios of if this is happening, how do you want this to happen now? So it is a very time-consuming component provisioning, but it ties into every aspect of everyone's day at the institution and truly is something that institutions benefit from. Is there, let's see, I think we have another question. There's a question here, Jake, I believe. It looks like KCAI is using a SAM account name for login. In other words, what sort of collision detection exists for Joe at university.edu versus Doe at studentuniversity.edu? Chuck, would you like to take that one on? I can readdress the question if you'd like.
Yeah, please do. Please ask the question
Okay.
again.
How does Quick Launch handle name collision? It looks like KCAI is using SAM account name for login, but how does Quick Launch handle multiple AD domains?
Right. So based on the policies that are instituted at the specific college or university, we can leverage those. So we make sure that in our identity store, so we pull data in from Active Directory, from your SIS solution, from other applications, and we filter that data in our identity store to make sure that there are no collisions, if you will. So we leverage the policies that are defined by the institution. And we can leverage best practices based on what we've seen with other colleges and institutions. But, you know, as we know, everybody's different. But yeah, we can absolutely do that. The filtering based on multiple OUs, multiple Active Directories. We have our own Active Directory in our cloud that that a lot of our clients leverage as well. Basically, for if they don't have Active Directory, we can leverage that, or they leverage that for failover or redundancy. That's another feature of the product that can be leveraged, and lots of folks take advantage of that.
Great, thank you so much, Chuck. In summary, I just would like to ask Jake, overall, how is your comfort level and experience with selecting Quick Launch, the implementation of the first phase, utilizing it in a real live environment? How are you feeling that that process has benefited KCAI?
It's benefited us a lot. It's benefited my staff for sure. I'll admit our timing was a little odd when we went live. We actually went live 2 weeks before the end of a semester, which is not ideal. I would have not have done that under normal circumstances. However, we had to onboard some new users, and our old password management tool had expired, and I did not want to relicense it for just 2 weeks of use, or a month, however long we needed. So our timing wasn't ideal, but and there were bumps. There were a few configuration things that we didn't realize needed to be changed on our Active Directory when we first went live, but we got all that figured out very quickly. And yeah, I mean, it was a paradigm shift for us. And the next stage will be even a bigger paradigm shift for us. So there are always going to be bumps like that, and such a big change. It has been, again, as we add more apps to the app portal, I think more people will really understand what it's meant to be, used for. Again, we have a lot of different systems that people have different passwords for. So once they realize, hey, I just go here to go to my, to log into ADP, or to log into, register my receipts, or, all that stuff will be in one place.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it was relatively smooth.
Thank you.
I'll say that. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so very much. And again, thank you for your time today. I want to wrap up our question and answer. If we have not addressed your question either in the chat or live, please rest assured that we will get to your question and we'll get you a response within the next 12 to 24 hours directly to your email account. Chuck?
And with that, yep. And so with that, we're going to wrap up the webinar. So thank you all for attending. We did want to provide an exclusive opportunity for the attendees, where we have single sign-on. We leverage our own IDP with password manager and multi-factor authentication for 50 cents per user per month. We know that is far more aggressive than any of our competition, pricing wise, and it's feature rich. So in addition to that, we also offer a program where since we have such a pedigree in higher education, like SK and several others on our staff from higher education, we can help sit down with you and put some justifications in place for your budget, right? So we know lots of higher ed budgets starting in July 1st. Don't know if your budget proposals have already been submitted. If not, then we're happy to work with you to make sure that you have the justification for such a solution, largely dependent on return on investment. So there's hard return on investment regarding cost of the help desk, FTEs, but there's also several other issues that can be addressed. Like Jake said, he solved problems he didn't even know he had with our solution. So again, 50 cents per user per month. We can do monthly contracts, we can do quarterly contracts, we can do annual contracts. A lot of our clients lock in for 5 years and just let us run their identity access management solution for them, so they can focus on making sure that they do what they do best, and that's educating students. So with that, we'll come to closure. Thank you all for attending. We hope this was educational for you. Again, you can schedule a demo with us if need be. You can download the Magic Box report on Campus Consortium, or you can just email info@quicklaunchsso.com, and we'll get back to you with any questions that you may have. So thank you again, all. Stay healthy, stay safe.